Okay, hello and welcome to this warrant committee meeting at on the 11th of August, 2025. Uh, can I have the clerk call roll to start us off?
You may. We have Elaine Craighead, Lorraine D., Grace Doherty, Jay Fundling, Larry Johnson, Andrew Coe, Macy Lee, Brian McGuire, Lee Michael McLean, Nicholas Tanging, and Cecile Yang. You have a quorum.
Okay, great. I'd like to start by welcoming our newest member, Larry Johnson, elected at our last
Mhm.
meeting. Larry, I know I didn't give you forewarning, but would you like to say a little bit about who you
Can you guys
are?
hear me okay?
I can hear you, Nick. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
sure. I'm Larry Johnson. I've lived in Milton since 1999, um, and uh, and I've been a town meeting member. I'm not really sure how long. I think like maybe 13 years, something like that. And I've looked into joining the Warrant Committee a couple of times, but I haven't. The timing's never been right until now. So this is great. I'm really glad to be here. And I work I work in a bunch of different things, mostly IT, some database work, some project management, some cybersecurity. I've sort of jumped around a bit over the past over my career, and that's it. So yeah, I'm just really happy to be here.
All right, great. And while we're on a roll and while I'm catching people off guard, Grace, I realized you weren't at the first meeting to do an introduction for yourself.
Oh yeah, sure. No, I'm Grace Doherty. Been in Milton for 19 years now. I have to figure out how old my kids are, and then I figure out how long I've been in Milton. I've never been part of Milton politics, or any of the government stuff. So this is actually really exciting for me. My background, I'm a Boston native, but my background is in finance and banking and insurance. So I do a lot of product development. So basically, anything you go to buy at a bank or insurance company, I would run teams that build those and do a lot of project management and strategy work. So, and I'm excited about this. So,
Great. And Nikki, keeping on the theme, I'm catching people off guard who weren't at the first meeting and forcing them to introduce themselves. So,
No, it's okay. I apologize for joining late. I'm Nikki Boyson. It says Nicole. You can call me Nikki. You can call me Nicole. Either's fine. I'm a finance professor at Northeastern. I've been there for 21 years. I have prior experience in commercial banking and public accounting. I ran for Board of Assessors last year and lost by a hair. So I've been considering joining either town meeting or the warrant committee for many years. And finally, the time just seemed right. So super excited to be here.
great. Yeah, so we've got a Nikki and a Nick. We've got a Lorraine and an Elaine. I don't know which other names I'm going to confuse, but um, Lee Michael, if you're still stepped away, that's fine. If not, if you're able to introduce yourself between bites of dinner.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lee Michael McLean. Can you hear me, Jay? All right, good. I currently live in Precinct 2, just recently moved from Precinct 10 to Precinct 2. So I've been a member of town meeting for more than a decade, but recently stepped out of that role. But being on the warrant committee now will afford me the opportunity to attend town meeting going forward until I can run in Precinct 2. I was on the warrant committee previously for 3 years during the last override, not this most recent one. And I served as chair for 2 years.
Okay, great. I did not realize you served as chair for 2 out of your 3 years. Um, so looking at the agenda, I would like to move things around. So our town administrator, Nick Milano, should be joining us fairly soon, actually, probably in less than 10 minutes. But I would like to jump around. Article 1 was called to order. Article 3 is electing a representative to the Capital Committee. And now in previous years when I've been on it, it's just been appointed by the chair, but I noticed that other boards elect people like this. Of course, other boards are smaller and they look around the table and they say, who wants to do it? We're a little bigger. Um, and I sent you an email about the Capital Committee a couple days ago, but in that email, I lied. I said that we had one experienced member who had been on the Capital Committee. We have at least two, maybe more, experienced members who've been on the capital committee. Both Lorraine D. and Elaine Craighead have been on the capital committee. So, because I'm lazy and don't like doing work, I would like maybe Lorraine to start and Elaine to follow up. Maybe Lorraine could say a little bit about what the capital committee does. And Elaine, since you were the school committee rep on the capital committee, maybe you could talk about what that role is for a representative from another committee to the capital committee. Lorraine, do you
All right.
mind?
No. My memory now, it's a memory test for me. The Capital Committee, what their job is to look at bigger projects. So projects that sort of go over a 5 or 10-year span and have an expense that's either 25,000 or 50,000. But what each of the committees and boards, and it could be the selectmen, the school board, they present their capital project plans to the Capital Improvement Committee, and they discuss why it's needed, what, if we don't have it, what's going to happen, when is it needed, because some of them go over years, or they're not needed right now, but in a year. And then the Capital Committee takes everyone's information, and they discuss sort of the cost of these, what's the timing, what's the impact, and they discuss amongst themselves. And then they put together, I think 2 things, if I remember. One was a capital improvement budget for the fiscal year, and the other was kind of an improvement plan, sort of over a couple of years, what would go on, what would need to happen. And that goes to the select board, and they do their stuff and they approve it. And then it comes to the warrant committee. And that's when we get to discuss it and then make our recommendations to the town meeting. So that's what I can remember. So. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, that's a great description. I have very little to add. The only thing I will add is that the other thing that the Capital Improvement Planning Committee discusses is what can be purchased with cash now and what needs to be bonded over time. As the rep from the school committee, I served really as every other member did. I had the same vote as everybody else. But the one thing that I was charged with from the school committee was speaking to the needs of the schools. Why the schools needed new windows in Cunningham or whatever it might be. So that's it.
Okay, thanks. So this role would be a little bit different because this person wouldn't be speaking of, here's what the warrant committee needs for capital needs. It's probably more of a communicating information from the capital committee back to the warrant committee. One thing, Elaine, you said that some things are paid in, and this is partly for new warrant committee members to know, some things are paid out of cash. Like maybe we've got $1 million to allocate for capital cash, and maybe things that are going to have a short life, we're going to pay for those in cash. But for things that are going to last 10 years, we'll say, well, we're going to borrow for 10 years.
Correct.
What I don't know is, I mean, if you have $1 million in cash to pay for things now, well, you can buy $1 million worth of things. But how many things can you buy that you're going to then borrow for 20 years? I don't, an infinite amount. I don't know how the capital committee approaches that or what sort of guidelines you get from the town finance. Maybe I'm getting off the topic, but it's something I'm curious about.
We get advice from, I don't know what Amy Dexter's title is, Director of Finance?
Financial director.
Financial Director. We definitely get guidance and advice from her, but Lorraine served on it longer than I did. So if she wants to speak to it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it, because there are different people that sit on the committee, the school, the library, the select board. And so there's different, but there's, Amy was actually an unbelievable resource because they talked about free cash. They talked about borrowing and how many years we'd have to do that. And then any questions people had, I remember the next meeting, the information was then brought to us to discuss it even more. So I didn't never had a feeling that we were making decisions with not enough information about the long-term effects of what it would do with the town finances and making sure, you know, the projects we were putting forward to the town meeting members. I mean, that's who votes on it at the final part of it, but were with a lot of discussion. So.
Okay. I don't necessarily want to offer you two up for answer questions, so I'll just throw out to ask questions to me, even though I don't know them. To the whole warrant committee, do you have more questions about what this role is and what the capital committee is? Not hearing any, I guess I'll throw out and say, do we have someone who's willing to serve in this role? Someone or more than one someone's? Brian, are you raising your hand because you want to speak or because you're
Yeah,
interested in
well,
the role?
both, I guess.
Okay.
I'd throw my hat in the ring. I mean, I did that, for 30 years. I was VP of operations for a major company, and that's what we did. We evaluated capital purchases. That was like a big portion of what I did. So I have some experience.
Okay.
Yeah, we had like 21 locations, 1.5 million square feet of warehouse, 350 trucks, vehicles, and stuff. I could go on, but there a lot of stuff we used to go through and analyze. So
Okay.
I'm interested. I'd be interested.
Lorraine, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I'm interested also. And I have my background, it's in healthcare, but it's healthcare management. And I manage actually a health center. So there's millions of dollars in the budget that get managed in capital projects. And I think I can bring a wealth of information and experience to the committee.
Can you remind us how long you were on the committee previously?
I several years. And then there was a year that I was on as a citizen. And then, because I was on the warrant committee, this is my third time being on it. And the first time I was on it, I was on there for, I think, over 4 years. And then I was on for a couple of years. So 2-3 years maybe as total. And there were gaps in it, so.
Okay. Well, as I said, in the smaller committees in town, people sort of look around and say, who wants it? We're a bigger committee. And unsurprisingly, we have, thankfully, 2 people who are willing to serve.
How many do you need for it?
What's that?
How many people do you need on it?
1.
Only one?
Only 1.
2?
No. Yeah. Sorry if that wasn't clear.
Okay.
How big is the committee? Sounds pretty big. It's got representatives from a bunch of different other committees.
There are, I see, 9 people.
Oh, okay.
Select board, school committee, warrant committee, planning board, Amy Dexter, library trustee, consolidated facilities, and 2 community at large.
Okay. So given that we have 1 opening, are the 2 candidates still interested in? Are you interested in putting this to a vote, or do you want to virtually look at each other across the table and nod at each other and decide if one of you wants to do it?
I
Can't arm wrestle.
That's it. I didn't hear what you said.
My thing was, like last year, I remember asking a lot of questions on some of the purchases, some of the capital purchases, as you remember. And maybe it seemed like I was being a pain, but I was surprised that the lack of answers on it. Like utilization, like one of them, the issues was the cars. I think there were 13 cars that are owned by the town, and they were buying new cars. But it didn't seem like there was a good grasp as utilization on them. or we're going to buy 2 new cars, things like that. Like I don't know that they keep data on that. I didn't get the impression they did. Issues with hours, engine miles on replacement of vehicles. It was sort of like they just had a time thing in their head from the previous chief, but it didn't seem like they were like analyzing those type of things when they were doing some of the stuff. So that's one of the reasons why I'd be interested in it, just to try to maybe add some discipline on that. That's my thoughts.
Okay. I mean, I certainly hope nobody takes this in a personal way, because I don't love having us say, oh, I like this person or I don't like this person, as you all saw at the last meeting. But we have to make a decision as a committee. And we have 2 candidates who put themselves forward. Do people feel like they have information they need to, we don't need to draw this out. This is not electing a president or something. Do people have the information they need to make a decision? No one is saying they don't. Macy,
Well-
Lee, Michael, you don't have your cameras on. Are you aware of what's going on?
I'm aware of what's going on.
Okay.
I am too, Jay.
Okay.
I guess I have a question for Lorraine, since Brian mentioned his interest. Lorraine, why are you interested in serving on the committee again?
I think actually the diverse information that you get from each person, each committee, and the ability to ask questions back and forth. I don't remember the same thing as Brian was discussing of not having the information. I know at the time the Warrant Committee didn't press that they wanted more information, but I think having at least listening to everybody and hearing about what projects need, what the cost is, having input into that, and looking at the big picture of planning for the town on a long-term basis, I find interesting. So.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, I guess we will have a vote for either Brian McGuire or Lorraine D to be our representative to the Capital Committee. Karen, are you okay with calling a vote?
I am. Hang on one second. Nicole?
I'm going to abstain because I'm not sworn in yet, and I apologize. Today I had a work crisis that kept me from going to town hall, but I'll be there tomorrow.
Okay. Elaine?
Lorraine,
Lorraine?
Do I get to vote? Me, I guess.
Grace?
Brian,
Larry? Do we have Larry?
Can you not hear me?
Now I can, sorry.
Oh yeah, I guess Lorraine. I mean, either one's fine, but you guys are both great. But I guess Lorraine, if I have to make a choice.
Okay. Andrew?
Brian?
Macy? Brian? Brian?
Myself.
Lee Michael?
I am going to abstain. I have an appointment to get sworn in on Thursday. Thank you.
Okay. Nicholas?
Lorraine.
Cecile?
Lorraine.
And Jay?
Abstain.
Okay, so
Please
it
tell me
looks
it's not a
like
tie.
it looks like Lorraine has 5, Brian has 4. The rest are abstentions.
Congrats.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, committee. So the next thing, or the previous thing on the agenda, is discussion of fall town meeting articles, which is a little vague. You all saw I sent out assignments for town meeting articles. They were largely, so stepping back for people who weren't here last meeting, I wanted to have 2 assigned experts to each town meeting article. Because in the past, for example, let's say we get a 10-page dense legal document from the planning board saying this is our article. Do all 15 warrant committee members need to read all 10 pages of that legal document? I don't know if that's the best use of everyone's time. I don't know what everyone else did. So I thought if we, I'm not telling anyone, I'm not preventing anyone from investigating any article, but I want to have at least two people who are really on the ball for these articles. So you saw I sent around an email. It was mostly based on what people said their interests were last meeting. For people who weren't here last meeting, I made an educated guess. I was doing this at 11 o'clock at night, so that's why I didn't text or call any of you and say, hey, do you want to do this? You're welcome to horse trade if you want, but I haven't heard anybody complaining about their assignments. So, has Mr. Milano has not yet joined us. He told us he told me it's bedtime for his kids. So, oh, what? I'm slandering him. I'm slandering him. Here he is. Okay. So, two things we can do. One is throw it out to everyone. What do you think of your assignment? Do you have an idea of what to do? I want to talk about sort of when we want to report back to the warrant committee about these things. But I think first I would like to ask Mr. Milano to maybe do a brief overview. Well, first of all, to introduce yourself. I apologize. You are such an important person to the warrant committee, and you haven't been to meet us yet. So I'm glad people are meeting you virtually.
No, thank you. Hi. Hello.
If you could,
do you want me to just, I'm sorry, I guess I'll go. Nick Milano, town administrator. I've been here it'll be 3 years in September. We will spend a decent amount of time together over the next 11 months now, 11 and a half months. And, if anybody wants to sit down and chat, feel free to reach out. And I'll be in to several meetings, particularly in this fall, as we work towards the fall town meeting and then start talking and building towards the next year budget process. So feel free to reach out to connect. I'm happy to kind of debrief on anything, whether budget related or town meeting related, in a more casual kind of conversation. I'm in town hall, so just feel free to reach out by email, call, or stop by.
Great. So I wonder if you could pretty briefly just give like one or two sentences about each of the articles we have in front of us, like one or two about what they are, and then maybe tell us where they stand. Do we have a final written version? Do we not have a final written version? Things like that.
Sure. So I'll go and Jay, I just don't know what you have transmitted. Did you send around the draft warrant as I most recently had it?
I sent around a draft warrant about 2 weeks ago, and then today, like yesterday, I sent around the two things you sent me yesterday.
All right, so I'll go in order in which they were in that draft warrant, or are in that draft warrant, rather. The first article is related to, now, of course, I don't have it up in front of me. This is acceptance of statutory provisions that would authorize the town to set up a taxation aid committee and a taxation aid fund. And this is brought to us, to the select board, rather, for a request to include Fry, the town treasurer. So the article itself is pretty brief. To accept a statute, Mass General Laws, Chapter 60, Section 3D. And I mention that because a lot of the decision points will be made by the committee once it is set up. The committee is to be comprised of the chair of the select board. The chair of the board of assessors, the treasurer, and then 3 residents who are appointed by the select board. And then that committee will work through how to determine eligibility, what programs to follow. So not to say it's a future decision, but I'll just point out that there's a lot of details to be worked out, and it's assigned to that committee to do so. I'll note that there are other communities that have established and accepted this provisions, Needham and Dedham, the ones that come to mind. So likely the town would look to copy kind of how other communities have approached this to make sure it's administratively easy to process and easy to understand. And at the end of the day, it's about accepting donations from folks who want to donate to a taxation aid fund that would then be distributed by this committee to those determined by the committee to reach a level of need. And that's for seniors and the disabled.
Okay.
I'll just keep rolling then, I guess. So the next one is, again, another acceptance. So this is accepting Mass General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 57, and to establish a new bylaw that would allow permit granting authorities, or rather licensing authorities and permit granting authorities, to revoke or deny permits or licenses if the applicant its entity is not up to date on local taxes or fees. This is just another article that was brought to our attention by the town treasurer, again, just as to add a tool to our toolkit in terms of chasing down property owners who may not be up to date on taxes. It's not a massive issue in Milton. We collect 99+% of taxes every year, but there are those problem property owners that this would just give us another tool to use in those cases if they came up. And I'll just note there is so essentially, we would keep track of folks who are not up to date and then move to deny any new building permits, for example. Or if you're a property owner that has a liquor license, for example, the select board, if you weren't up to date on your taxes, the select board could hold a hearing to determine whether to revoke that license, just to have another means by which to encourage payment of taxes.
So both of those, as far as getting the wording final, those are both easy.
Correct.
The wording is all done. And as
Yep.
far as the content, I'm resisting the urge to ask a bunch of questions because that's the whole point of us having a couple of experts who will go ask you all the questions and come back to us. So
Understood. No, and feel free to reach out, obviously, with questions after the fact if you'd like to. The third one, I believe, in the draft warrant I sent around was the school building committee's article. This one, again, it's very brief, but you have to kind of go to the source material to understand what it's trying to do. So for new members, this is related to the land swap, proposed land transactions for a potential new school project off of Guile Road and Blue Hills Parkway. The town meeting and the legislature both approved a home rule petition that would authorize the town to exchange land, take some conservation recreation land, and dedicate that to school purposes, and then take other recreational and conservation land and take other general municipal land and dedicate that to recreation and conservation, the so-called land swap. The land swap was expected to expire, or it has a reverter clause in it. This is what it's referred to as a reverter clause, which says that if the town doesn't vote to approve a school project by June 30, 2028, the land goes back to the way it was before, except for everything that we suggested would go into conservation recreation would still do that. So this is like a deadline that the school building committee had agreed to so that folks knew it wouldn't be this kind of open-ended process. After the home rule petition was approved by the legislature, the MSBA, the Mass School Building Authority, invited the town of Milton into its program, whereby if we go through their process, we have a chance to get 35 to 40% of eligible costs reimbursed by the MSBA, rather than moving forward with the school project totally on the residential tax or the property tax owners here in Milton. So by going through the MSBA process, it'll take longer, but we'll get reimbursement from the state if we adhere to their rules and regs. As a result, the school building committee wanted to submit an article to say, okay, well, the situation has changed a bit. Can we add more time to this land swap, because we're now going in a slightly different process for the school project that's going to just take longer and hopefully offset the cost of the taxpayer. So I know a lot of background needs to go into that. Chapter 147 of the Acts of 2024, which is referenced in the article, is the special act that's been approved by the legislature that outlines the land transactions that have been authorized by the legislature. And so that's where you can find more detail, but the article itself doesn't touch any of that. All the article proposes to do is submit a new home rule petition asking the legislature just to amend that one clause found at the end of that special act to provide additional time for the school potential new school project timeline to work with the MSBA. And I know Sean O'Rourke from the school building committee would be happy to speak with the warrant committee in much greater detail than I could just there. The next article is submitted by the Climate Action Planning Committee. The Climate Action Planning Committee has been working for a couple of years now to draft a climate action plan for the select board and town's consideration, trying to adhere to the goals that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts had set. So this article is just, I wouldn't say it's not really a non-binding, but it's not a binding legal requirement, but it's just expressing the sense of the town meeting and the sense of the town that the town should strive to adhere to those goals and make certain commitments around climate. They're pretty straightforward. Alex Hasha from the Climate Action Planning Committee is the chair of that committee. He's been doing a ton of work around this effort on behalf of the town and the Climate Action Planning Committee, so he'd be the main contact there. And both this, I shouldn't say both, but this article is pretty firm and final. So that's a climate action one. The next one is a bylaw that's been bouncing around the last several months around light trespass, which would be to provide a mechanism by which complaints around lighting could be addressed. So it's not there was talk of just a general lighting bylaw that would restrict lighting across the town. This is a more narrow to trying to address problems and nuisances. So there's definitions in there, and there's a layout in terms of how enforcement would work, and what the penalties and relief would be there. So that's been submitted by the select board. So reach out to me for whoever's got that one, and I can coordinate additional information. This has been brought to the select board by a past member, Erin Bradley, and facilitated as well by Sean O'Rourke from a town meeting member. And then just transitioning to the three articles that we sent around. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Can I interrupt, Mr. Milano? So for that one specifically, and for a lot of the ones coming up, is the wording final? Has it been reviewed by town council? Has it been reviewed by you? How, that's sort of one question we've wrestled with in the warrant committee in the past, is how fully baked is what we're getting?
Sure. The light trespass is, according to everybody, I think there's one piece that the town council is looking at in terms of the penalties, but we believe we addressed it correctly. So we view that as complete at this time. And then, what was I going? Climate action, I would say, is complete. And yeah, I think everything that's been distributed via the warrant is what the submitting authority would view as complete. Obviously, the warrant committee's recommendation can deviate from the article itself, but those in terms of what is being submitted is what we view as final.
Thank you.
All right. So transitioning to the articles that we sent us separately. The first I'm going to talk about is the master plan one. So the Master Plan Implementation Committee was set up in 2014 by town meeting, the fall town meeting in 2014, to be charged with implementing and components of the master plan. So that committee's been working the last 10 years, and then was extended. It was extended at one of last year's special town meetings till October of this year. And their last charge is to issue a report to the town meeting and to the planning board and to the select board. So this article is giving them, it's the first line of it is just to hear and act upon the report of the Master Plan Implementation Committee. So they're going to report back on what they've worked on out of the master plan, areas where they think additional work is needed. And then they're recommending a new committee kind of take the master plan effort from here. They've just labeled it as the Master Plan Committee, which would have a charge to continue to monitor the implementation and to recommend to the planning board and select board others, actions to keep implementing it, make recommendations around what in the master plan needs to be updated. And then again, just identifying the key areas where continued work is needed. It's recommended to be a 9-member committee, appointments made by the planning board, the select board, and the town moderator, each appointing 3. It requires a planning board member and a select board member to serve on the committee. So the Master Plan Implementation Committee will make a report and then recommend that a new committee be formed and charged by town meeting accordingly and take on that work moving forward. I will note that the Master Plan Implementation Committee, as part of the budget, does get a $30,000 appropriation. So it's used those funds to carry out different aspects of the master plan, and this committee presumably would be seeking to kind of retain some appropriation to do work around the master plan or around implementing portions of the master plan. And the last two articles that I distributed were the planning board articles. The first that I'll talk about is the sign bylaw. So this article proposes to strike the existing provisions related to sign review in the current zoning bylaw and replace them with the new proposed language. This has been submitted by the planning board. The planning board will have a public hearing on this. I believe they're looking at the second week of September, which would be their first September meeting, to have the planning board public hearing. They've been working on it throughout the summer. We have distributed to town council, to the building commissioner, the building department for review. So that work is still underway, and anything that the building commissioner, town council identify, they'll bring to the planning board and likewise to the warrant committee. So I just want to flag that as one that is still in a, I don't want to say it's in a draft form. I think the planning board's perspective is the work is complete, but we're just having that final review happening now. And then the last one is some updates to the traffic impact mitigation clause or section of the zoning bylaw, which allows for mitigation measures to be required through special permits projects and site plan projects. So, you know, these larger projects that might be more impactful if they're proposed and approved through whether it's a planning board process, the planning board special permit process or site plan approval process, this new, or I should say revised section of the zoning bylaws would clarify kind of some expectations around that. And you know, some things that we've gotten out of this have been changes to projects to incorporate to reflect impacts on traffic, and then a couple of other projects have contributed payments to the town in response to traffic impacts, and the language changes mostly just expand to make sure that this also includes site plan approval projects, not just special permits. That one I would view as less likely to have suggested edits and tweaks from town council, but it has been shared with town council for review, and I will keep, you know, like I said, the warrant committee and planning board apprised of any recommended tweaks to that one. So those are the articles as they stand. One thing I just want to mention while I'm here is that as members of the warrant committee may be aware that we had a resignation from the select board last week. John Cohane resigned from the board, which could trigger a special election, which is not cheap, and it is a cost. We have budgeted for one election in this year's election and registrations budget, which is the annual town election. This is just one of those years where there's no fall town elections in Milton. So we're looking at if there is a special election, what the cost of that might be, if we need to amend, if we feel like we need to amend those fiscal 26 budget appropriations. So just to flag that as a potential article. The select board's next regular meeting is August 26th, though we're looking at some dates for a meeting potentially next week. So if anything moves on that front, I will let you all know. And I think that's it for me.
Thank you. I didn't hear anything about the alcohol on town land article.
Yes, right. It's so again, a bylaw change that's been bouncing around. So the select board submitted and took to town meeting in February a bylaw to, right now there's a blanket prohibition on possession or consumption of alcohol on all town land and all town buildings. We proposed through the select board tweaking of that to say, rather than a blanket prohibition, we can allow it under certain circumstances and certain facilities with certain approvals. At town meeting, that proposed bylaw was amended to strike town land and keep it limited to just town buildings. For example, the library trustees could host an event with alcohol consumption with the approval of the library trustees and the approval of the select board. But that approval does not extend to just town land, whether it would be a park, Wharf Park, for example, down at the landing, or the deck in East Milton. So that is still has a prohibition on it. So the select board is discussing potential changes or a potential bylaw that would still allow it on town land. responding to some of the feedback and the discussion that happened at town meeting. That has not been finalized. We have a couple of different versions floating around. So if that moves in one direction or the other, I will keep the committee informed.
Okay, thank you very much. I sort of wanted tonight to be sort of an open-ended discussion, question and answer. When I suggested this last week, there were some good questions about, wait, what is it exactly do you want me to do? And the sharp observers noticed that I didn't have a very good answer. I just sort of said, well, look into it and see what questions you have. So I thought we might want to revisit that topic. I do want to help us with our discussion. I want to share my screen. That looks like the right thing to share. I hope. Nope. Do any of you see anything from my screen?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yes.
I can see it.
A schedule?
You
The
see
schedule.
proposed WC schedule. Okay, great. Hey, it worked. I was sort of mapping out what our next 2 months might look like. And while, thank you, Mr. Milano, thank you, Select Board, for getting us these articles so early. But still, it feels like 2 months is going to go by really quick. So right now we're on the 11th. I had planned for meetings every other week, although you'll see that that plan may already be falling by the wayside. So what I was thinking, and obviously alcohol on town land might need to be revised, but well, won't worry about that right now. What I was thinking was that 2 weeks from now, we would have people come back and talk about some of these articles. Now you'll notice that I have some of them in bold, the climate one, the light trespass one, alcohol on town land. The ones I put in bold are just my subjective guess of ones that we might have a lot of questions about and might come back for another go round. The ones not in bold, maybe we'll be able to take care of those right away. That's just my guess. I had to guess something. So I was thinking we could have some discussions 2 weeks from now on the 25th. You'll also see I put times next to them. For each of these articles, I put 30 minutes. Now, any returning warrant committee members are probably laughing to themselves. When did we last have a discussion in the last 30 minutes? It's a bit ambitious, but if I said, let's talk about light trespass for 2 hours, we could easily talk about it for 2 hours and more. So I think I'm sort of seeing this as an aspirational goal, and also maybe a challenge to each of us. By us, I mean you, which is, we're doing something a little different. We're having warrant committee experts examine these things and come back prepared. So maybe if you could, the people who are on the climate plan, talk to Alex Hasha, talk to anybody else you need to talk to. Every question you have, or any questions that come from your fellow warrant committee members to you saying, hey, can we figure this out? Hash out those questions, hash out those answers so that when Mr. Hasha comes, we'll do a presentation to us. Maybe that'll last 15 minutes. And then maybe you'll talk about, here are all these questions we had for him, and here are all the answers he had for us. And we'll see how well that works. We'll see, how we're doing as a committee, really, getting things done and being thorough and having all our questions answered, but also being efficient with our time and meetings. Let's see how it goes. So I think obviously alcohol on town land is not going to be a good choice for 2 weeks from now. I'll just highlight that. So then we got a week off for Labor Day. Then I was thinking the next week would be a good time to have the Warrant Committee Summit where we sort of lay out, here's our roles, everything you want to know about the Warrant Committee, but we're afraid to ask, and discuss among ourselves, how are we going to have these discussions? What's in scope? What's out of scope? As I said a couple weeks ago, it's very tempting to say, oh, let's push that off till October. But I think it'd be better to have it soon. And, while we're in the middle of deciding things about the fall town meeting. So we'll decide, how should we have our discussions go? So then we don't get a week off, at least according to this schedule that I dashed off this afternoon. The next week we would meet, talk about all the remaining issues, including fines. Mr. Milano, I might have mentioned to you, I mentioned at the last meeting, I've assigned 2 warrant committee members to just look into fines in general, because like the light trespass, that's probably going to have fines. The sign committee, the sign bylaw, that might have fines. Other things are going to come in front of us that have fines, and we always find ourselves sort of winging it. Like, I don't know, a fine is $100 a day too much? Is $100 a month not enough? So I've assigned 2 warrant committee members to sort of figure out what's the best practice when things come to us that are going to have fines. That it's ambiguous, but I have confidence in these people they'll come back with something good. So September 15th, talk about everything else we have in front of us. Then that leaves us again, if we're not taking weeks off in September, we've got 2 weeks to say, all right, what did we not actually finish in these first 2 meetings? What do we need to circle back to? And or we already voted on, I don't know, 5 out of these 8 things. Let's come with comments. Do we agree that the comments reflect the view of the warrant committee? So that's the schedule I'm looking at. It's not set in stone. If you want to change something, especially if you want to change something that's due to be presented 2 weeks from now, I'd prefer you speak up sooner rather than later. Otherwise, I'm hoping people will take these 2 weeks to investigate these articles for the next meeting. So my question to you is, do you have a sense of what I'm asking you to do over the next 2 weeks? All right, we got hands. Good. Lee Michael, I saw your hand first.
I'm asking if you can move the fines from September 15th a week later. I have to miss that meeting live because I'll be in Las Vegas for work.
I can, but then we'll be talking about things that involve fines like light trespass and probably the signs before we figured out what we're doing with fines. So is this something you could put some time into in the next 2 weeks, you and Lorraine?
Sure.
Sort of it's like the gas expanding to fill the volume. If I give you 6 weeks, you'll take 6 weeks. I give you 2 weeks, you'll take 2 weeks.
That's
hopefully. Lorraine, are you okay with that?
I'm fine with that.
Was that a fine pun?
Yep. There we go.
Okay. Larry.
The dad jokes to a minimum, Jay. So yeah, the sign review committee, the sign plan, the sign bylaw, I think we could have probably moved that up. I was reviewing it today and I had a conversation with John Zikowicz already about it. So I think it's pretty straightforward. You can probably move that to the 25th if you really wanted to.
Mr. Milano, I'll turn that back to you. I know you said there's still some review of the sign bylaw by the town council. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that may be a little quick, but it might be helpful for the committee's understanding to hear from, I think, you have 2 members there from the sign review committee that can speak to how signs are managed in the planning board. I'm sure they'd be happy to participate. So if there's capacity, I think you could certainly start to talk about the overall intentionality of what has been drafted, and then council might have tweaks in terms of accomplishing that, but they might have nothing too. I just don't want it to be hung up on that.
Okay. So probably no vote that night, but at least learn about it. Okay, thank you. Grace?
Yeah, so I've started looking into the senior tax piece, talked to Nick last week, and Elaine, I'm not going to be able to be there on the 25th, but can I put stuff together for maybe Elaine to present? Is that suitable, or I can give you information?
I think that's suitable.
That's fine with me.
Okay.
Yeah, Grace and I talked about some of this over the weekend, and she actually has way more information on it than I do.
So I can put stuff together and I'll have it ready, and then you guys can talk about it. So
Wonderful. So I would say subjectively, we've heard just now from a couple people who've been really on the ball and already started things. I'm very, very happy to hear from people who not only haven't done that, but are a little confused about what to do next. Don't want to put anybody on the spot, but that's sort of what I thought the meeting tonight would be like. Like, what is it you're asking me to do? And okay, Grace, I don't know if your hand is still up, but Nick raised
sorry,
his
no,
hand.
I'll take it down. Sorry.
Okay, Nick?
Yeah, so that's kind of my question. So these different time slots are set for the different days, which is great. And do you want us to have kind of a summary of what the issues are? Are the representatives of the articles going to come and speak to them, or are we just going to lead a discussion among other warrant committee members to sort of try to get everybody up to the same place on the research that we may have done?
Thank you for asking that. I think that the short answer is I want the sponsors of the articles to be here. For example, climate, Mr. Hasha, I want him to be here. Light trespass, I don't know if we'll have anybody. I don't know if I don't know if we'll have anybody to represent that, but school building committee, I want the school building committee chair to be here. Where it's appropriate, I want maybe a representative from the select board to be here or the planning board to be here. So what I'm imagining is like let's say for the climate bylaw, the Mr. Hasha will present to us for 15 or 20 minutes, telling us here's what we're proposing, here's what we're not proposing, here's why. And then the warrant committee members who were on that will speak up and say, and here's or maybe this will be incorporated into Mr. Hasha's presentation, or maybe come up and say, and here's the questions we had. We want to know about this, and here's the answers we found. So, my fellow warrant committee members, you probably have questions like this. Here's the answers already. That's what I'm imagining, and we'll see how that goes.
And who invites the sponsor of the article, or do we do that as the different I don't know, subcommittee members? Do you coordinate that as the chairman? How does that work?
That's another very good question. I think I think it's me as the chairman, but
Okay.
I'm not going to stand on formality. Certainly, if you're talking to someone, if you're on one of these other ones and I don't know who the best source is, and you say, oh, the best person to speak to this is the town treasurer, Jay, you should really invite them. So, I'm not going to stand on formality. If you think somebody should be invited, please speak up.
And last question for me is, should we have anything written for the discussion, like an outline of the topics? And if we do that, how do we share that with the group?
Okay. I'll take the second part first, which is, you can provide it to Karen and that'll be shared with the group and that'll be a public document. And the first part, everybody presents things differently. I love presenting things in PowerPoint. I don't know if I were in this role, I don't know if a PowerPoint would really be appropriate because again, the sponsor is probably going to be presenting what they're thinking and you're just going to be saying, yeah, and here are the issues that came up and here's how we settled them. So I'll leave it up to everyone to if they just prefer to present it verbally, written, that's up to you. I guess I would say for Mr. Milano, for open meeting law purposes, let's say two people go off and they look at the blah, blah, blah article and they think, here's my strong opinion on this article. Are they able to provide it written to the warrant committee ahead of the meeting, or is it something presented figuratively or literally at the meeting and then it's a public document? Is it an open meeting law if they send their opinion around the day before the meeting?
And try to avoid that where possible.
Okay, so yeah, provide your written feedback during the meeting. So provide it to Karen, let's say. Karen will share it with everybody during the meeting and afterwards. Because otherwise you're sharing your opinion with people outside of an open meeting.
Thank you.
And to be clear, that's a problem when you're sharing it with a quorum, 8 or more members of the warrant committee. You can talk to your buddy on this committee all you want about it. You can talk to another 1 or 2 or 3 members of the warrant committee about it all you want. It's only when it gets to being a quorum. That's the problem. One thing I want to throw out, I was taking notes, especially when the climate one came up. This popped into my head, although it could apply to all of them. Something, it's very tempting to do on the warrant committee. I want to emphasize that people should consider the article in front of us. This popped in my head during the climate one because certainly some people in this town, in town meeting, on this committee, might look at the climate bylaw and say, that's too weak. We need something stronger. And I'm not agreeing or disagreeing, but I'm saying we're asked to make a decision on the article in front of us. If you think some different article would be much better, this really isn't the venue to spend a lot of time talking about that. I would say. Andrew, you went off mute. Do you have wisdom about that?
Nope.
Or you just went off mute? Okay, no.
I've been off mute.
So yeah, it's tempting to ask about everything under the sun. And certainly when you're discussing with the article sponsors, you can have discussions, but when you come back to us, stay focused on what is the article that we're being asked to say yes or no on. We can say yes, we can say no, we can amend things a little bit, but pretty much focus on the article in front of us. What else? Yeah, I didn't have a whole lot planned 'cause I thought it'd just be open questions. So now I think with the way I've rearranged things, I think I'm back at. It's a little long. Maybe I'll move. It's a little long with the fines. Maybe I'll move these down to the subsequent meeting because I got to be somewhat realistic about what we can accomplish in one meeting. So if we're talking about fines and the planning board sign bylaw and light trespass and the climate and the school building committee, that's I might have said one of those twice. That's a lot to realistically cover in a 2.5, 3 hour meeting. Brian, I see your hand is up. Do you want to contribute to this topic?
Well, you're right. That meeting is going to be a 6 hour meeting probably. But one thing I wanted to ask, which might help, I don't know if you said this, Jay, so I apologize, but are we going to get the articles in advance? Because what I would like to do is, instead of them coming in and asking questions that they're not going to, they say, oh, I have to get back to you on, and you might never get the answer. Like, I'd rather, if we got it like in a week in advance, we could send them questions and it might help the process, I think.
Yeah, I think the answer is that was one thing Mr. Milano covered is we've got some of them in advance. No, alcohol and Thailand, we don't have it all. Other ones we have, I think for all the rest of them, we have either some level of draft, either pretty close to final or final. So I think we have all the rest of them. And yeah, I would encourage you to send your questions to the two experts on each article. So yes, getting the questions answered ahead of time. Very much encouraged. Grace?
Yeah, just to help others out, I know what Elaine and I did is we came up with the list of questions we had around our topic. And then when I met with Nick, it seemed that they had a lot of work already done. So I think as much as you can try and get the pre-work that's already been done and use that as information to feed off what you bring to the committee, I think that's helpful. I think there's been a lot of work done in I would imagine there's a lot of work done that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Let's try and get what's already built and then ask the questions that aren't answered in what we have.
Yeah, and I mean, that's something I've seen as a warrant committee member for several years is the people who are proposing this know a lot of stuff about it. And a lot of the difficulty is getting their knowledge into the warrant committee's heads. And then there's difficulty getting the knowledge from the warrant committee's heads into town meeting heads. I might be getting a little off topic, but there was an article regarding recording of town meetings a couple of years ago, and we spent hours and hours discussing that article, got a lot of our questions answered, and then went to town meeting, and town meeting spent a couple hours discussing it, asking a lot of the same questions we asked. So I don't know what the moral of that story is, but efficiently conveying information is going to be, very important for us. So if I'm looking at the planning board sign bylaw, light trespass, those are just chunky. Those just take a lot of time to even talk about everything that's in there. I'd still like to sort of have everybody prepared to. I'd still like to keep this for the first meeting and do what we can to have clipped, efficient conversations. And if that fails miserably, well, it's better to fail miserably on August 25th than, 3 weeks into September. If we fail miserably, that means we'll kick things off till September, and that's fine. Y'all have 14 brains and I have 1 brain. What do you think about this proposal?
It looks fine, Jay. Let's make sure we're not spending too much time talking about not spending too much time talking.
Thank you for keeping me grounded. On that note, possibly I've beat this agenda item to death, and people know what they're supposed to do, and it started. So the only remaining agenda item was approval of minutes. Macy, can you speak to that?
Let me pull out, I know that, let me turn on my light because I can't see very well anymore. So I need like a lot. So I know that the minutes from July 14th were approved and published. Have they been published yet, Karen? But I know they've been approved at the last meeting. They've been published, great. So the only outstanding ones that were not voted on at the last meeting were March 12th, 2025, June 16th, at the special town meeting, June 17th, also special town meeting, and June 24th. And then I added the last warrant committee meeting minutes to today, which was July 28th. So those were distributed by Karen, I believe earlier, late last week, I think, right?
Yep.
I was out of town. So am I correct in that, Karen?
You are, yes.
Okay, great. So I know based on doing the July 28th minutes with Karen that the new committee members were hesitant to vote on the 4 set of minutes from last. Am I correct in that too? I believe that was in the minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move to, since there are new committee meeting, new warrant committee members here, I'm going to move to vote on the July 28th minutes, since I believe everyone was here and are familiar with it, and hopefully everyone had a chance to review them.
Second.
Thank you, Elaine.
Would you like me to call the vote?
Yes, please, Karen.
Okay. Nicole?
Sorry, unmuting. I can't vote. I'm not sworn in yet, so abstain.
Okay, I'm just going to call your name. Okay, so.
No
okay.
worries. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Elaine?
Yes.
Lorraine?
Yes.
Grace? Yes. Larry?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Macy?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Lee Michael?
Abstain?
Yep. Okay, Nicholas?
Yes.
Cecile?
Yes.
And Jay?
Abstain.
Okay, the July 28th minutes are approved.
I'd like to also request, or move, I should say, to approve the 4 set of minutes from the last fiscal year. But my understanding, again, based on my review of the July 28th minutes, was that the new members weren't comfortable voting on it. Is that still correct? And that understanding? Okay. So I just want to inform everyone here that you do not need to be present at our previous meetings to vote on the minutes. You can go on YouTube, which is where Milton Access TV is at, and you can go through those meetings if you really want to, and compare the meeting to the minutes that were circulated to you. I know that's time consuming, but you can do that. So I don't want everyone to think that you have to be present at the meeting in order to vote to approve the minutes. You can always review the meeting itself and compare it to the minutes to make sure that the minutes are a true and accurate reflection of that particular meeting. But I can also move to vote on these 4 set of meeting minutes because Jay was obviously there. I know Julie is not here today, but Andrew and Brian are here. Is that enough for a vote though? I don't know the answer to that. Jay, do you know the answer to that? Is that enough for a vote? If everyone else is...
Yeah, I mean, we have a quorum here. If a
Yeah,
whole bunch of people abstain, we still have a quorum.
Okay, so let's do it. Let's go for it so we can get those off and so that I can get the next 5 set of minutes for our next meeting so we can get these published. Okay, so I'm going to move that we vote on the following minutes: March 12th, 2025, June 16th, 2025, June 17th, 2025, and June 24th, 2025. And Karen, if you can call the roll, that'd be great, please.
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
And who seconded?
Andrew.
Andrew.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Nicole, you're an abstention, correct? I'll let you say. Yes. Okay. Elaine,
Abstain.
Lorraine,
Abstain.
Grace,
I read through them, so yes.
Jay. Oh, Jay, you're last. I'm sorry. Larry,
Yes.
Andrew,
Yes.
Macy,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Lee Michael,
Abstain.
Nicholas,
Abstain.
Cecile,
Abstain.
and Jay.
Abstain.
The minutes are approved.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, and I would just like to follow up on what Macy said with a plug of my own. So Macy talked about watching the minutes on YouTube. For those who don't know, there is a podcast. It's not very creatively titled. It's the Milton, Massachusetts Public Meetings Podcast. That's where I share the audio of various public meetings, planning board, select board, our meetings. It's pretty subjective. It's if I think it'd be interesting, I put it out on the podcast. So, getting ready for the fall town meeting, some of you may want to review quite a few of the planning board meetings, for example. I found it a lot easier while I'm going for a walk or washing dishes, to listen to a podcast rather than watch the video. So the podcast is intended for an audience of one, me. And if any of you listen to these meetings on podcast, that's just a bonus. So hopefully that's an easy way to consume some of the public meetings that will help us do our work.
Jay, could you remind us where that is, please?
I'm sorry. Yeah, so it's called Milton, Massachusetts Public Meetings. It's on Spotify, it's on iTunes, it's on Google, and it's on Pocket Cast because that's the one I use. I'm about a week and a half behind, so I'm somewhat caught up. Did that answer your question? Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you.
And I believe that's our business. So unless someone else has something to bring up, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, wave at the camera.
Yay.
Okay, thank you very much.
See you in
Thank
2
you,
weeks.
Mr. Chair.
Thanks.
Take care,
Good
guys.
night.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Good night.